Okay, so I am aware of this track, like I do know this music, so I do have a little edge when it comes to this busking, but nonetheless we'll see. Just so you know, we have two LED buttons that light the fly cases as well as the moving lights, and as you can see I've just brought the intensity up on that static, nice deep blue to go with these vocals. Now in this case, because I'm using EOS, what I've done is I've used a group macro which sneaks them up over 5 seconds, and it's a useful little tool to use when you're using something like this, because I've got a little MIDI desk, and when I press the button that macro runs. So with the keyboard, now just scaling down, I've got the moving heads moving very gracefully from one focus palette to another, and they've now moved to a third focus palette which crosses them over. And we've followed down. Now this bum 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 is me hitting the bump button affiliated with the moving heads or the LED buttons on the desk. And now we're bringing in from the vocals. Now that dun 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 has stopped, so obviously I'm not following that, but I've just brought the intensity up on all of the fixtures together and just have a subdued pulsing effect. That's an absolute effect from 0 to background that's going over all fixtures simultaneously, just because it feels quite mellow, quite lazy, a little bit high almost, with a very slow pan effect, which is what you're seeing there, just to add a little bit of movement. Now we've got the main lyric, eat, sleep, rave, repeat. So I've increased the speed of that pan effect, and we've got the female's vocals. Now those female vocals I've symbolised by just taking the intensity out, and we've got a build up, so we're going from the lower focus palette, doing a sweep, because it is quite a manic track already and we're not even there yet, and we're panning up. That was 2 focus palettes from 1 to B while we got that going. Random strobe and hitting it, and strobe. Now what we've got are the moving heads doing a pan effect with a tilt effect on top. That's why they're doing that weird cross effect that we can see going on. That's your can, which is 904, and a custom pan effect. And that's this here now that's just kicked in. And you'll notice we've got the LED buttons doing a bright white uplight, which looks really intense, vicious, and quite savaged, along with the moving heads that are taking no prisoners. With this track we're really throwing the rulebook out the window, and we really are hitting the audience straight in the eye. And now we've got something a little bit different. The female vocals are on top of this, so we've got a colour palette that I've just kicked in over the top of that with a simple circle effect, which is 901 for those who are interested. And just before we go back over that crossover, and stop! That stop right there is going over to a simple white focus palette with a button that I put together, which is literally just killing absolutely every focus palette, every single effect we're running. Going over to a different colour palette and bowing. Now this bowing is because we've got some really intense bass right back there, which of course the audience will feel right in their chest, so we really want to hit them in the eye with something intense along with that intense beat. And now we're building back up again, so I'm just going to do that pan effect and some sweep. Now there's not really much point me going to blackout to then bring it back up again because it's so quick, so it's quite a cool effect to do this palette down, palette up sort of style. Got a little bit of a flicker going on as the main lyric again kicks off, the Eat, Sleep, Rave, Repeat. You'll notice that this colour palette just sort of happened, and that's because these guys don't have a CMY engine or anything like that. It is a colour wheel, so what I've done is I've made sure that that snap colour change is on a beat or something that stands out in the music. Now this is me just whacking that bump button really fast. I'm in Croatia, bitch, and we're off again. Again, with the very intense strobe. You'll notice at the start I had the colour palette on the bottom set with the white at the top before they all swapped over to the white, and we're gone static this time, and stop.
Fatboy Slim is
back in. Again, we're doing this bow thing, which again is something I very rarely do, especially if there's cameras. I very rarely touch the tilt doing focus effects just so we don't blind people, but with this kind of experience we really want to be vicious and represent that music and taking absolutely no prisoners. again, it is the case that, again, with this colour palette, I've just snapped that in because we're going halfway through. We've gone stop, and we're back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Back. Now I've gone from the white because I know that we're doing this swap thing where we go strobe, swap, strobe, swap. So I've just used this colour palette to symbolise that sort of change. And stop. Cutting out all the intensity changes, strobing. And again, stop. This time we're stopping all effects. And back. And stop. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Again on the bumps with that one. And 1, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Back. It's all about the timing with those ones. That's me literally just hitting one button and then quickly switching over to the others. Now you'll notice the LED buttons are doing a pixel flash effect in time with the music. And stop. There we are. Nice and simple. With this kind of thing you can go either super complex with a wow wow wow, or keep it static, but both of those give exactly the same effect and feeling in my books, so there's no point me going over the top with this because we are going to go to a drop at some point, so there's no real point in ruining that surprise, so to speak. Again, we're building up a little bit, but I don't want to make it too intense, so again I'm doing a full group effect with that woo being accentuated by that strobe, which you can just see coming in. And because we've got some colour in there, we lose our intensity a bit, which just helps with that subdued nature. Going out to the audience and bowing. We've taken all the beam palettes out, so we're now just doing a full spot just to make sure we can get as much light out of the fixtures as we can. I'm taking no prisoners because it's very bassy. The audience can feel this in their chest, and circle effects. Back. So the audience can feel the bass in their chest, but equally, of course, I want to make sure that I'm reflecting the music and taking no prisoners. They can feel a sensation in their chest, so what I'm going to do is absolutely hit them with light, and that's why I've just tried to get as much light as I can out. And I've taken the opportunity with that extra lyric to take that colour palette out in time with the music, meaning we're now pouring light over the audience. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. Again, at these moments, don't be afraid to just kill everything. Stop any effect that's running. If it goes with a beat in the music, you can't go wrong. And you can see we just sneaked over to a crisscross. On the right now, you notice that we went over to that red on some of those moving heads. The right now is about da-da. That da-da was exactly the same amount of time it takes for the colour wheel to get to that. Or at least it feels like that anyway. So you can use colour wheel changes to your advantage. You'll notice just on that beat as well, we did a beam palette change and we've got a rotating O-shaped prism, not prism, sorry, gobo. Robo strobing and back to it and go. Bang, 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 bang. You'll notice the moving heads are doing something a little bit different this time. The reason is we've got this other focus palette which crisscrosses them, so they pan in on themselves and you end up this really weird look. On the Let Me See Your Booty Rock, you can see that I stop all the effects and we just run effect 901. For those who are in the know, that is the simple circle, just to represent that simplicity. On this second time round, I'm just random strobing most of the time and stopping whenever something like this happens. It's really bizarre how the red and white works, because they are literally stark contrasts, as human eye struggles to see any frequency when it comes to the red, but we really see that white pour out of the fixtures. Again, I'm not doing anything. I don't need it. We're getting into a bit of a build-up, so I might do a bit of a flash, because the drop is now. Bang, 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 bang. Again, taking no prisoners, no panning at all. Literally just tilting into people's eyes. But of course, gigs like this are all about experience. It's all about, in effect, in my eyes, mimicking being high. It's the ultimate in not following the rule book when it comes to lighting and sound and anything like that. Now what I've done now is put a linear gobo in, so it's a line effect, you can see. So it splits the beam into a very long shape, and bang! Something like this, I could play bump keys like a keyboard, but I don't need to, because doing that, it kind of distracts the moment. The audience, all of them, will be going doo, doo, doo. We want to help with that moment. So something like this, where it's static and sort of looks like all of the lighting fixtures are unified, really helps with that sensation. I've even gone to the effort of just pointing the fixtures onto the audience and blinding them, just so they feel an almost alien sensation of something really pulling them in. Wait, what the fuck? Everybody's on drugs again! Bang, 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 bang. Again, that linear gobo looks absolutely fantastic. It's just a line in the air, and as they bow into each other, it looks very choreographed and very well put together. But that's only because it's following a simple beat. And the good thing is with Fatboy Slim, he tends to keep things around the same beat. No, it really is quite helpful. You'll notice we just went back into some lyric for a second and back into it. So I've just changed the effect on the pan tilt a little bit before changing things up again, and we've gone to can again. Again, just wanting to keep things a little bit mixed up, not too much, and occasionally bring in the LED buttons. And you'll notice the yellow just sort of happened. That's because that yellow colour change happened during the strobe, so it wasn't really noticeable until the last minute. So that's something you can use, especially at these sort of events. There's very little attention to these sort of changes. The timing is the thing that you need to get good at. Now you notice I've faded these in. Again, that's okay, that's fine. You don't need to be an exact copy of the beat, because what you need to remember with these lighting fixtures, you need to see more as choreographed dancers rather than an exact visual representation of the music, or at least that's in my books. Of course, we've now gone to something a bit more subdued, so I've just kept very static look, with a little bit of pulsing on the intensity. That's about it. Again, we've now changed the music up a bit, but I've kept the same gobo and the same stuff like that, so I've just in effect changed the colour palette just to represent that change in the music. I'm using the random strobe for this build-up, with the LED buttons and strobe together, and bang! No intensity change, because we've got this intense bass which will resonate in the chest of the audience. So again, we want to do something again that's very intimate with the audience, if you like, because what we're doing, the bass they'll feel in their chest. We want light that's going to really hit over them, and you feel that light over them. And then when that extra beat came in, we added a pan effect, and that's why they're doing this very choreographed looking bowing effect where they bow into each other, with the LED buttons taken out, so that it's just these bars of light mid-air. And on that, you'll notice that I took that yellow and purple out to a white, as I knew that something like that would be wanted for this look. That sound really, to me, makes me want to pour light out these fixtures and into the air. And we're now sneaking over to a very simple, you know, a bog standard crisscross kind of look, but it looks fantastic. By the way, this colour palette change was a mistake, but you'll notice I rectify it on the beat so that it doesn't look like too much of an error. On the beat, we're now using random strobe, and random strobe again. Again with the random strobe, we're just building the LED buttons in just for a second. Quickly change the colour on the buttons. Every so often using synchronised strobe. And synchronised strobe, and we're back into it. So we're panning, tilting, that's two different effects on top of each other. That's why we end up with this crisscross with a simple absolute effect. The absolute effect, it has a grouping of two. That's what gives us this weird sort of swapping effect. And now on that, just to represent a bit of change, I'm using the random strobe on top. On top of that, we're also using random group when we're using that intensity effect with absolutely no fade up or fade down. We're just using a dwell, I believe, around 0.5. If you use EOS and you want to recreate that, if you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, that's fine. This is entirely a creative experience, so you're welcome to just watch and enjoy. Again, when we just had the female voices come in there, I took that opportunity to snap in those little pops of red on the outside. So I've got my white light coming from the inside and the red from, I suppose you could say, the perimeter, the outside of our stage look. But I've kept that random group effect running just so that we have some sort of a sporadic nature going on. Again, we've got no gobos in. We're literally just pouring light out on a simple spot. That traditional spot moving ahead look. You heard a just then. We just very gently moved over to a different focus palette. Ready for this? Which follows the beat of this particular tilt effect that you're seeing very, very well. Again, the rule I tend to follow most of the time is not to tilt the moving heads in effect engines if we're using cameras or we don't want to blind the audience. With this kind of audience, that rule has been deleted, my friend. We don't need that. You'll notice the colour palette has changed. I've taken the black out as an opportunity to very quickly change things. We've got a nice blue and yellow going on. The klaxon just kicked in, and I've taken that as an opportunity, as a sort of moment to put in this effect, and bang! Again, that's literally just a simple linear pan effect with a simple tilt effect. That is quite literally effect 904 for those EOS nerds out there, but with a grouping of 2 and a slightly different cycle time. I could put that on a fader for effect rate if I wanted to, but I didn't. I am using Nomad, but I'm also using an Akai Professional APC Mini MIDI controller, because when you're busking, having tactile feedback is what it's all about. If you got that booty back, again, having some familiarization with the music in which you're busking makes a lot of difference. If you've never busked to a particular style of music before at an event, or if you've never busked for a particular artist, I always say just whack them in YouTube. Listen to the music and just watch what comes up in your head. This particular look I like. It's a very narrow aerial beam effect almost, but it looks really nice. Again, we've gone very subdued, taking the opportunity to go to complete blackout. With these style of events, going blackout is not an issue. Down, on down. Now, it's a very deep voice, and deep, to me, feels like a very deep, rich blue. So again, I've mimicked that with on stage. This high pitch is very high, it's very bright, it's very awake. So again, I'm representing that in the music with this random strobe that's panning around. Again, it just changed pitch. Again, I took that opportunity to change the colour palette, because remember, we're using colour wheels on these moving heads. They don't have a CMY engine, so we can't do subtle changes, so we need to preempt that. That's one particular thing about busking with automated luminaires. Know your fixtures. If you don't know them, you won't get the best out of them. They are it's exactly the same with using your paint if you're a fine artist, or if you are any kind of musician. Know your instruments, quite literally in this case. Know your instruments. On the break it, I'm bringing the random strobe and the white, and we're getting ready on the synchronized strobe, which gets them all strobing together. It's very intense, and and go. Bum 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 bum. Now we've got back to this very recognisable section in the music that we've had before. I'm going to create a recognisable look, which is this tilting in and out of each other, and on things like booty or little sections of the music which just happen for a fraction of a moment, just catching it with the strobe or catching it with something that won't ruin the look ultimately, and mean that I'll have to build it up, because those 2 extra seconds where I'll have to build up that look will just completely scupper it everything. Now I've gone to blackout. That's because I can hear it building up, and I know that we're going to go down again. Now this bit I've got ready on the bump buttons for A, O, let's go. The wash fixtures are let's go. The beam fixtures are AO, A, O, let's go. A, O. That's literally me just hitting the bump key on my APC Mini, or I mean it could be any console, but it's literally just me hitting the flash just to get them on that beat. And I've got a little bit of animation going on with effect 901 with a simple circle effect with the moving heads. Now you can see that we're just fading off into the distance. So again, pitch black and bam, building up a bit of a state and sneaking up to another focus palette with a nice break up, just bursting through the air, and 1, 2, 3, 4, bum ba-dum, bum bum ba-dum. Again, very bassy, very intense. So I'm pouring light out, and I'm literally hitting the audience directly and panning right over them, just so they have an immersive sensation around them, along with that heavy bass. After that, dang, 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 where I break to second, I'm now using the random strobe for the drums instead of just relying on the intensity effect, just to break things up a bit and change things. And now we've got the female lyrics coming in. So now to represent the female lyrics, I've got the pan effect on. You'll notice that they've just started panning left and right, and that was literally just to carry her voice in the light. And stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, back. And on that final drum, I'm synchronizing the strobe. Drum. Drum. You'll just see that we strobe just for a second for the drums there. Got a bit of a carnival vibe to it almost. With just sort of bits of light just scrolling around in the air, just sort of reflect that, I guess. On that bam, 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 we had the wash fixtures just flash white, and we're just going to complete darkness just to go with these words. And I might just sneak up the wash fixtures just to catch the audience's eye, bring their attention to the stage. Ready? It's very easy to feel, I feel anyway, for when things are about to go down, when things are about to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I wouldn't accentuate this, doesn't need it yet. I know that we're about to go into something else. You'll notice that we just went out. That was just because the camera reset it. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3. Back to it and bow. Oh no, I went for sweep this time. Who would have known? It's got a bit of a carnival vibe to it. I can see why I did that. It's quite nice. You'll notice the bars are pixel buttons, and they're just sort of doing their thing every so often in individual cells. On that moment where we go, you'll notice we go a much slower movement just to represent that. And now we go into a little bit more of a berserk state just to reflect what's going on. Ba-dum, boom, ba-dum, boom, boom, ba-dum. And we're literally just letting that intensity change, which is the absolute random sort of 0 and back up again. Just carry that beat, just carry it, let it carry it. Now I knew this was about to happen, so that's what that sudden stop with the moving heads was, but again, that happened on a beat, so it wasn't noticeable as a bad thing. and all we're doing is panning left and right just to represent this lyric that's happening in the background. We don't have to represent everything that's happening in the music at the same time. That was a sneak down to my lower focus palette, and while this is running we're sneaking back up again just to carry these little sounds that you can hear in the distance, these ding 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 noises. Bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum baby. Again, we've got a little bit of a different beat now, and we've got this different vocal. So again, I'm using this intensity effect to carry that along. We don't need any animation. We don't need any pan and tilt. We're building up. We don't need any any sweeping, anything like that. We're just using a random strobe here because I know for a fraction of a second we're gonna do this and stop. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, and back, crossing over each other. These need to look, this look I wanted to look highly choreographed. The music feels very carnival, very dance, very choreographed, made me feel like carnival dancers. So I wanted the fixtures to dance inwards towards each other, a lot like that sort of carnival dance vibe. So I'm sort of representing that in the light. That's literally all I'm trying to do. I'm just following what I see in my head. And then we've got nice and mellow. So we've just got this very subdued intensity pulse with a very slow circular effect on the pan and tilt. And now it's true, we've got a little bit of a build up there going on at the same time, but we don't need to represent that. We've got a bit of lyrics coming in. Again, we don't need to represent that because we've got a bigger change coming up any second. We know that's going to happen inevitably, so what we might as well do is stand by to represent that. And here it is. And all we've done is stop the effects. We've got a little bit of a pulse going on just to carry the vocals. We're just slowly moving over to this different focus palette. Stop. Strobe and back. 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, it's all about that familiarization. We've got to a familiar point in the music, so we create a familiar look that represents what I've got in my head. I've got carnival dancers, so I want to make the look, the light look a little bit carnival dancey kind of vibe. They're choreographed, they're dancing in and out of each other. But equally, the music is quite bassy, very intrusive on the audience. So I'm not taking any prisoners when it comes to firing light in their face. This is the thing with DJ sets and this sort of thing. It really doesn't matter if you can't see the performer's face all that much. There are no real rules. Now I like to very abruptly sidelight DJs with contrasting colours. That's something that tends to work very well in my rule book, or rather in my experience. But of course you'll come up with your own techniques. It is an art form, not something that is dictated by rules ultimately, so do whatever works. Now, there's a bit of a beat going on, but that's about it. A bit of a, you know, a boom, 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 boom. So I'm just letting that intensity change carry that. We're going down, lowering that intensity. Now we've only got vocals. So in my books, I'm just going to take the black out. Take the black out. Don't need it. Now you'll notice we're about to strobe. That was a mistake. I was just telling a friend how the strobe works. Here it is. Now, if you've got some of the fixtures in the rig, I would have used some LED par cans for what you're about to see. But I do have some, but I didn't have them plugged up because, I mean, it was pitch black and it was very cold. So, 1, 2, 3. Now, I'd like that to have been on par cans, but nonetheless, you get the idea. And we're building up. Now this is very obtrusive, very intense. So again, very obtrusive, very intense lighting. Pouring out over the audience. And we're building up now. Getting them ready. Taking the intensity out. Now we're standing by on 4 buttons, on bump buttons and strobes. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, strobe. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, strobe. And bump, 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 bump. Bump, 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 strobe. And 1, bump, 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 bump. Bump, 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 strobe. So I'm literally just swapping between the spots and the wash fixtures, and on the we're strobing on that noise. Bub 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 strobe. Pardon me. Bub bub bub. Now we've got the lyrics coming in a little bit more, so I've just changed the movements a little bit up at only a little bit, not too much. Now, if you can imagine, if we had a lot more wash fixtures and not those just those LED buttons, that would be a lot more intense and carry things a lot better. With this build-up, I don't need to do anything too special. I'm just using a random strobe. And stop. Back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, strobe. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, strobe. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, strobe. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody build it up, run a strobe, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, on these bangs of drums. Again, we're now doing that with the strobes as well. So we're using the strobe quite a lot here to carry quite a lot, but so long as it's timed well, works great. Out! Again, it's all about the timing and understanding what to anticipate with this particular style of music. So again, we're building up. You can just feel it creeping back into existence, and again, I'm using that random group intensity effects just to carry it. And here we go, and stop. Again, we're going to pitch black. We don't need to be scared to go to blackout with this style of music and style of environment. Now I'm getting ready on an intensity fader. Here we go. Now bassy, very deep bassy music. So I'm using a very deep blue. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. That's literally just me sliding that fader up and down to the music. If you can imagine a lot more LED power cans were in the rig, this would look a lot more intense, but nonetheless. Random strobe, synchronized, random. Maybe I could have brought in some more spots here and taken them back out, but I'm not. And all I've done now is faded those pixel buttons in while they're doing a little bit of a change to the beat. Random strobe, synchronized, random strobe. And now I'm going to bring those moving heads in, again at the same rate of intensity change to the beat of the music. All I'm using for this entire busk is 2 different intensity effect engines. That's all I'm using. Sorry, not effect engines, 2 different intensity effects. Get ready on the strobe, strobe! Random strobe! Random strobe, strobe! Again, we've got 2 different strobes. We use the synchronized and the random. And it's really good to switch between the 2 at the points in the music where it feels it should happen. Nothing's happening right now. We don't need it, but it feels right. And 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Strobe, 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 strobe. Now you're going to die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, strobe. And movement. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, strobe, and again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, strobe, and again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and building it back up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, on the drums. On the drums again. 1, 2, 3, strobe, and in effect, my hands are frantically moving around 4 buttons on the console right now, and we stop. I don't need to carry this bump. It's not intent. It's not part of it. It doesn't need to happen. You'll notice the colour palette change there. That happened on a beat, so it worked. So I might take the intensity of all the fixtures out. And we've got a gun effect here. And we're back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, and strobe, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, strobe and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, strobe and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're wondering why I went for the purple and the yellow, it works really, really well. It's a really nice combination. Two very they contrast each other very, very well, or rather complement each other very, very well, even though it's a nice contrast. But in particular with Fatboy Slim, he's got the smiley face with the yellow background, so something that works well with that is a magenta, so that's what I've got on there. It's a look that I repeat quite often with these style of events. Again, this is a nice look. We've just brought the intensity up with a nice aerial beam effect, and again, everyone's feet is bashing along with this beat. So all I'm doing is using that intensity effect to carry that. That's all it is. And 1, 2, 3, 4. That noise that we just heard there killed all the effects and sneaked over to the focus effect that focus palette you're looking at right now, and we're absolutely blinding them. You can see the smoke just pouring out. We don't need to do anything, that's why. It's okay just to let the music carry it. And back one. I'm using that sort of choreographed switcheroo pan tilt thing that we did before, with the reds, the blues, the whites. And I've made sure that my white is on the outside in this particular case, just to make sure that it doesn't obscure the more subdued colours like the reds and the blues. And then with the lyrics that have just come in, all I've done is changed my focus effect with a nice slow circle, just to represent what we're hearing right now with the vocals. Because we've got the beat carried by the intensity and all the fixtures. And again, things just changed a little bit in the vocals, so the pan tilt just changed a little bit there again before going back to the circle. We don't need to overthink things. If a little bit of something is enough, that little bit of something is what's needed. Na 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 na. Now again, this will be a lot easier on something like Hog, and I hope to do a video about Hog at some point, but this is just to show that you can busk really cool things together on EOS. Again, we've just gone and gone very static, and again, that works well. You'll notice I made a little bit of an error there. I thought there was a beat there with the lyrics, and that's why we went to blue and yellow. But we ignore it, we carry on, we don't overthink it. I've done that many a time, and as a result, just messed up the entire show as I was thinking about what I'd in effect done before as a mistake. It's really not worth thinking about. You notice the buttons are just doing a little pixely effect thing, and the top row of moving heads are doing a little bit of a pulse, but nothing else is needed. And now we're bringing in the klaxon and the just letting that intensity effect that you're looking at right now carry this beat. Now again, this track has happened already, this build-up has happened pretty much already, so we know what to expect to a degree. 1, 2, 3, I like the way you move. And on that, we're now just doing another tilt effect with that intensity change. Again, this is quite basic, so again, taking no prisoners, wiping out the audience with just a whole array of light before going over to this choreographed look, by just including a linear pan on top of that. So we are still running that exact same tilt effect, which makes life a little bit easier. And now, as I know that we're coming to the end of this section in the music, which you can anticipate if things have been running for a little bit of a while, I'm just going to let this run out. And again, we've got the linear gobo that you can see in the air.